good morning or afternoon. It depends on what class you're going to be in. My name is Mike Beck. Was a master instructor at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. I still am, but I'm retired as of August of 2017. This will be for the Public Agency Training Council Vehicle Operations. I just want to go through what we're going to be talking about for the next hour. This block of instruction, you will learn about your vehicle inside and out. Most people that buy vehicles or assign new vehicles only take a brief glance at the owner's manual. Most departments have Ford, Chevys, Dodges, or Rams, and it's up to you to know your vehicle's operation. For the class, I'm going to refer to the 2018 Charger manual and why it's important for you to understand that manual to be able to drive that vehicle safely. The training objectives are, during this block of instruction, you will be able to explain under what circumstances you might need to change your oil. Most departments have their own maintenance personnel, or they send the vehicles out to somebody, but some of the smaller departments, you might have to change your own vehicle's oil. We're also going to look at listing two primary areas that a vehicle can be affected by improper tire pressure. And that's one of the areas that is, I guess, least checked on a vehicle. It used to be on the older vehicles, you didn't have to, you'd have to go out with a tire pressure gauge and check your tires every day, especially during the summer and the winter. Now you've got that on your dash where you can actually go in and check your tire pressure from the dash. I also want you to be able to list two pieces of equipment that could compromise the vehicle's occupant restraint system. And again, this should be in every manual because every vehicle has a vehicle operator's restraint system. Now, I picked the 2018 Charger Owner's Manual because that's what most police departments are running right now. Some of them will be running four-wheel drive vehicles, but I had to pick one manual that I could talk to you about. And really, all the manuals of every vehicle should run through the same sequence. And it's actually got 10 sections. It's got an introduction, it's got a getting to know your vehicle, getting to know your instrument panel, D, safety, E, starting and operating your vehicle, F, in case of emergencies, G, servicing and maintenance of that vehicle, H, technical specifications, I, multimedia, J, it has an index in the back of the manual itself. Now, getting to know your vehicle covers these critical areas: door locks, front and back. When you go ahead and look at your manual, it'll talk about how you can automatically lock your doors. Usually the vehicle does that for you, but for the rear seats, there should be a switch somewhere on the door panel that will let you lock those so that somebody that's in the back seat of your vehicle cannot open that door or roll down the window. And again, this varies from vehicle to vehicle. The new vehicles like this one, there are ways for you to adjust your seat and adjust your pedals, the foot and the brake pedals, so that you can feel comfortable with where they're at. Some vehicles, you can go ahead and program that in so that it automatically adjusts as you get in the vehicle and turn the key on. Where your spotlight is, And I've been finding, especially with the Chargers, you've got a lot of blind spots. So where your spotlight is, how you're going to have it pointed out or pointed down. Just know how your spotlight works if you're equipped with one. Now, the interior lights of your vehicle, there are a number of different settings. For the 218 Charger, there's the stealth mode, and that would be for your safety. If you get out of the vehicle, you might not want that overhead light coming on as you exit the vehicle. You might want to turn that down or turn it off. Where your dome light is, how to turn it up and down, and you might have a load leveling system in your vehicle. If you have it on your vehicle, how to actually actuate that. I found that these vehicles have different power outlets. You might have a 12 volt, a 10 volt, and you're going to have USB ports. Could be front and back. So you need to know where those are and how to use them. The major one that I can see is your instrument cluster panel. There's a lot of information that comes out of that instrument cluster panel that you can go through. So you might want to know, you can put your speedometer up and it'll give you the reading just like a normal speedometer. A lot of times on that cluster panel, if it runs through a check system when you get into the vehicle, and then if there's something wrong with that vehicle or a malfunction or something is not right with that vehicle, this should pop up on your instrument cluster panel. And what you need to do is you need to know what these lights mean and where they're at, and that will come in when you read your owner's manual. Fuel economy, you're going to look at, there's going to be, and I'm going from my vehicle, I've got a Dodge Ram, and it'll give you a fuel economy display. It'll talk about, the fuel economy that vehicle is actually going through. This winter, mine's sort of low because I have the automatic start, and it automatically starts the vehicle and lets it warm up. So it sits and runs. So my fuel economy is a little bit lower than most. It can give you trip information. You can set it at the beginning and the end. You can do a lot of different things with that. Also the audio. Where the audio is coming out, where you've got plug-ins to play certain things, how is your laptop plugged into this, where are your radios, information coming out of, is it something you're carrying or something that's in the vehicle, and as we all know, probably for the better part of it is how your radio operates. And I'm talking about the AM, XM, FM, if you've got that, because you might be listening to that also. Any messages that you might have coming in can pop up on that cluster panel. And it also gives you a screen setup so you can walk through that. And I would suggest when you walk through that, you have your owner's manual with you. Unless you are familiar, you go from one Charger to another, and then it might be a little bit different. And you also have a cluster in there that will do a diagnostic. When you start the vehicle, it'll run through a number of different diagnostic settings to make sure that they're all working properly, and if they're not, you'll see that on your cluster panel. Now, the second part that we want to go through, and this is Roman numeral number 4, is safety, occupant restraints, and airbags. Driver-passenger airbags affect the way the police equipment's actually put into your vehicle. And whoever's putting that vehicle in needs to know about the equipment and where they're mounting certain things on your vehicle. So if they're unfamiliar with this, with the new vehicle that you're getting, and they're putting all of your radios, laptops, screens, things like that, they need to know what safety equipment's in that vehicle and where that safety equipment, if it's actuated, will come out, because you don't want any of your equipment to be blocked by, any of your safety features blocked by your equipment. Additional supplemental equipment, like I said earlier, each department's going to be a little bit different, such as radios, weapons. Where are you going to mount your weapons? Are they on brackets? Are they in the trunk? Are they underneath the front seat? So forth and so on. If they install a cage in the back, where that cage is going to have to be installed. And what you want to remember with this is that you don't want any of your equipment to come in contact if the airbags are deployed with those airbags. It should, in your owner's manual, give you an airbag deployment zone, and it's described. You don't want any sharp edges, corners protruding on your supplemental equipment that could damage the nylon bags and reduce the effectiveness of that bag during its deployment. Vehicles with left and right supplemental airbags, inflatable curtains must be used. You've got to look at your vehicle cage in the back and figure out where that's going to be with the seat that you're going to be sitting in the front. And you want to make sure that, like I said earlier, that cage does not compromise your airbag deployment system. Now we'll go to starting and operations. Most of you will have automatic transmissions. In fact, all of you should. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. You will probably have an auto stick in some of your vehicles. Now, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about, electro-hydraulic power steering, all-wheel drive models only. If you have this type of vehicle, your vehicle should be equipped with electro-hydraulic power steering system that will give you good vehicle response and increase the maneuverability in tight spaces. The system will vary as it assists you providing light efforts while parking and good feeling while driving. If the electro-hydraulic power system experiences a failure or fault that prevents it from providing power steering assist, then the system will provide you with mechanical steering capabilities. So you need to know that, and that should pop up on your dash cluster if it's not working. Vehicle loads, this is something that you need to think about. The gross vehicle weight ratio, which is GVWR, for different size engines that you might have. Check the vehicle certification label that's attached to the side driver's side door. And the reason I say that is the fact that a car that you have now might handle differently than with the vehicle that you get into with all of your equipment in. I've seen some departments that are going to gun safes in the back of their vehicles, actually in the trunk, which has put a lot of weight in the rear end of the vehicle. So you have to take a look at where all of your equipment is, how much weight it's going to take to put that in, and where it's going to be on your vehicle. The other thing you want to look at is in case of emergencies. What happens if you're out on the road and you have a fuse that burns out? Where do I go to look to actually open up that package? Is it underneath the dash, or is it underneath the hood of the engine? Also know where your jack and tire changing equipment is. Some of you probably won't have to worry about this, because I know of some departments that their department SOPs say that you will not change your own tire you have to have a certified mechanic from such and such and such and such come out and change the tire for you. And again, each department changes, with their SOPs, so you might want to look at that. But I would know where the tire and the jack changers are. Gear select override, and I'm not going to go into that because it's a good read in your own owner's manual. And what you need to do if that vehicle needs to be towed, it'll have specific steps on what you need to do with that vehicle if you have it on a two-wheel dolly compared to a rollback. And most departments, and again, this is something that you might want to look at from your department's SOPs, is most departments that I know of want you to bring that vehicle back in on a flatbed because of possible transmission damage, so forth and so on. But again, you need to know what your department policy is on this, and you need to know how to put your vehicle's transmission when you get ready to have that put up on some type of towing device. Roman numeral number 7, service and maintenance. Now, when you get into your manual will tell you what your maintenance schedule should be for that vehicle. A lot of times, the reason that's there is to keep that vehicle under warranty. So you need to figure out what the maintenance schedule is and go by that. And then again, if your department has something else that states when you need to change your fluids or your transmission fluid, oil, radiator fluid, or anything like that, you need to make sure that you know what your SOPs say. But that should all be in your manual. It talks about specific times or specific mileages, and that, again, is to protect the warranty on your vehicle. Now, and again, it depends on what you're doing and where you're at. More frequent maintenance may be needed for your vehicle in severe operating conditions. If you're in a very, very dusty area, or all you're doing is taking very short trips where you're maybe 35, 40 miles an hour for 4 or 5 miles, then you might have a situation where you're looking at a time element. But you have to remember that this should be done anytime a malfunction is suspected on your vehicle. So even though it's under the mileage or under the time element, if you think something is malfunctioning, you need to get it checked out for your safety. Roman numeral number 8, we're going to talk about technical specifications. Now, if you look at your manual, there's going to be a specific wheel and tire rotation list in there. It's going to tell you what type of tire you need on that vehicle, what type of tire pressure you need, and how you are going to rotate those vehicles, and at what time or what mileage those wheels need to be rotated. And it needs to be followed verbatim from your owner's manual. Also, too, a lot of people don't think about this, but when you're putting a wheel back on, what is the torque specification for that lug nut? I know some places will just get on and use an impact wrench to put that on. And sometimes those can cause some stress either on your rim itself or the lug nut or the lug itself. So you need to make sure that they go with the tire torque specifications in your manual. Also, fluids and lubrications, they're going to tell you what kind of fluid you need in there. Do you need to have your vehicle put up on the lift and certain points oiled or some type of lubricant put in, so forth and so on, and make sure that you stay within the parameters of your owner's manual. And again, like anything else, you need to write down or check off someplace, maybe even put it on your calendar, some mileage, what date you think that targeting your mileage or targeting your time that you spend in the vehicle, when you need to have these services changed. Bigger departments might take you a couple of days to get that vehicle in to your maintenance to get that service. Some of your smaller departments, maybe not so much. Now, Roman numeral number 9, and this is probably where a lot of you people are going to be very interested in the multimedia package that's in your vehicle. They have cybersecurity systems set in that vehicle. They've got Uconnect 12.1-inch screen setup instructions. This all comes out of the 2018 Charger manual. You'll have, in this particular vehicle, Ethernet and auxiliary in cable. It'll tell you where those are at in your vehicle. It'll tell you where the USB keyboard connect points are for that vehicle. It will also tell you where the Uconnect 12.1-inch operating instructions are. Some of it could be touchscreen, some of it could be button. And for your PC, it talks about different screens, where the auto cable should be, so forth and so on. And backup a camera if it's equipped. The thing that I found with backup cameras, I've been from the old school where you turn around and you look out your back mirror or your back window and you don't use your mirrors. I've found with the Chargers, especially if you've got, we'll say, lights on the back deck, basically you can't see out of the rear window. And I'm not sure if your vehicle has this screen. I know my Dodge Ram does, but the idea of having a screen is just a secondary safety feature. When you're backing, it only shows you limited area. And so it'll tell you, you need to check other points in there before you back. Because if you've got some type of piece that's in a parking lot or something like that, and you're backed up to it, when you turn that screen on, when you've got that camera on, you'll not be able to see that. And you could actually back over that and damage your vehicle. And again, with these, you're going to have to know where your blind spots are and become familiar with those. Now, there's also going to be an index in this owner's manual. And this will be, for Dodge manual, this will be this HTTPS. You can read this for yourself. You could bring that up on your computer, either at home or should be on your laptop, and go ahead and read through that if they didn't provide you with an owner's manual. But I also wanted to show you with this slide is how easy it is to get into a Dodge 2018 manual. And this should be in, if you don't have an owner's manual, I venture to say you will. This should also be able to give you this website. And all I do is there we go. Let me do that again.
It's fine.
You just come down here to select a vehicle. click it. It'll give you another slide. It'll ask you what year your vehicle is. We'll say 2018, and what model your vehicle is. Say Charger, and you selected your vehicle. And this will put you right into the PDF file of your vehicle. You want to download it? And you actually have 553 pages. But this is the first page of that manual for the 218. There's your table of contents, and you can go all the way through that. Remember we talked about the introduction, getting to the graphic table of contents, which I showed you. Talk about getting to know your vehicle, instrument panel, safety, starting and operating in case of emergency, servicing and maintenance, technical specifications, your multimedia package that's in your vehicle, customer service, and index. And I would highly recommend that you read all of those. I mean, not in one setting, but when you get a chance, sit down and go through these so that you know how your vehicle operates. The thing that I'd like to do, what you'll find is that my test questions are all taken out of the training objectives or performance objectives. So I want to test you on material that we covered, and the only way I can do that is to let you know that these are the high points of this lecture, and that this is the important part of this lecture, and that you need to know these points. So during this block of instruction, the student will be able to explain under what circumstances you might need to change your vehicle's oil. And again, I've just covered a few that are in the owner's manual, but whether or not you've got a Dodge Charger, or you've got a Ford, or a Chevy, or whatever, they are going to talk about specific circumstances that you're going to have to change your oil or need to change your oil, and that will be in those specific manuals. But the test questions that we're going to be giving you are going to come out of the 2018 Charger manual. List two primary areas that a vehicle can be affected by improper tire pressure. What you have to understand is that with tire pressure, it fluctuates. If during the summertime, if you're on a county road, it's going to show such and such. If you're on a blacktop, it might show something a little bit different. The tire pressure is going to vary from the time you start your vehicle till the time you get up to where the tires have warmed up. Excuse me. Also, I found that you need to periodically check that tire pressure during the winter time, and you'll find that that tire pressure will drop because of the temperature drop. And the critical point of this is you're going to be running these vehicles at higher speeds than the normal public, and you need to know what the tire pressures are for corner characteristics, Hammond characteristics, so forth and so on. Because if the tire pressure becomes too low and you stress that tire, the tire can actually be disabled, come off the rim itself, the rim digs in, and you can actually have that vehicle turn over on itself. So there are another couple areas that you're going to have to look at too, because the vehicle has a lot of computer systems in it. And the fact that those computer systems are going to be checking certain things. And you want to have your tire pressure to where it is supposed to be within a range, so the computer systems are working effective. Now, I also want you to take a look at two pieces of equipment that could be compromised when your equipment is put in the vehicle that could compromise your airbag or restraint systems. Again, you have to look at a lot of different areas, where they're putting the laptop in your vehicle, how much of equipment do you have in your vehicle, where it's placed. If you put a cage in your vehicle, is it placed a certain place so that you don't interfere with the side curtain airbags coming out? Where are your speakers for some of your radios, so forth and so on. In summary, for this class, I'm referring to the 2018 Dodge Charger Police Manual. We have covered 10 different sections of this manual and why it's important to read your manual from cover to cover. Every vehicle is different. Some of your departments have various makes and models of the vehicle in their fleet, and that fleet could include cars, SUVs, trucks. Some of these vehicles will be rear-wheel drive only. Some of them will be front-wheel drive only or all-wheel drive only, but you need to know your vehicle's manual. And it's important for you to be able to know what's in that manual so you know what's the capability of your vehicle is going to be when you're out driving it. Do we have any questions? Now, the reason I put this slide in here is this is a vehicle that a lot of injuries, people killed in it. If you look down below, you don't have a airbag in this vehicle. You have lap belts only in this vehicle. And look at all the protrusions of the dashboard, the steering column, that could injure you in a crash. You also have, and then again, this is an older version of what a police vehicle might have looked like. You guys definitely are not, I hope, are not going to have a phone dial system where you can make phone calls from your car. But that gives you an idea of how an older vehicle might have been set up. I just threw that in there for some of you young guys to take a look at what some of us had to put up with in the early stages of our career.
Understand electronic stability control and show you how to use it to your best advantage. The intent is to enhance the officer's knowledge of this computerized technology. Oversteer is what can happen to a vehicle as it tightens its turning radius, sending its rear end sliding to the outside of the turn. Basically, the rear tires lose traction, causing the rear of the vehicle to slide. This can happen if the driver brakes in a turn, uses aggressive throttle applications, or is rough with steering input. Understeer occurs under certain conditions when the front tires lose traction, resulting in the vehicle traveling in a straight line and resisting steering input. This can occur if the driver uses hard acceleration on a slippery surface, hard acceleration on a dry surface at high speed while traveling through a curve, or abrupt throttle applications. In everyday driving, it's normal for transverse forces to arise. But when you drive a bit too fast or turn the steering wheel, transverse forces can negatively affect road holding. But the Electronic Stability Control, or ESC, solves that problem by controlling the brakes, if necessary, the engine, and if need be, the transmission as well. ESC is comprised of the following components: a speed sensor on each wheel, the rotation rate sensor, which measures the car's rotation around its vertical axis, and the steering angle sensor, which registers the driver's steering intention. From the sensor signals, the control unit computes when and how it has to intervene. The hydraulic unit builds up and reduces the braking pressure in the brakes. What happens during the first steering maneuver? The driver has to swerve quickly to the left. The steering angle sensor transmits this to the ESC control unit. But the rotation rate sensor signals that the car is understeering, that it's drifting straight ahead towards the obstacle. In split seconds, the ESC brakes the left rear wheel very briefly and sharply. This produces the desired counteractive force so that the car responds as the driver intended. What happens when you react? When you pull the wheel over to keep the car in the left lane after avoiding the obstacle, the car tends to oversteer and the rear end tends to break away to the left. The torque to the right is higher than the driver wants. In this case, ESC brakes the left front wheel. The torque is reduced. Instead of going into a skid, the car stays on course. ESC intervenes only when it detects a probable loss of steering control, when the vehicle is not going where the driver is steering. This may happen, for example, with loss of traction during oversteer and understeer conditions. ESC may also activate during high-performance cornering. Essentially, ESC attempts to keep the vehicle from loss of control due to oversteer and understeer conditions. ESC does not improve the vehicle's cornering performance. Instead, it helps to minimize the loss of control. The electronic stability control system automatically activates when you start your engine. It cannot be completely turned off. However, the ESC system is disabled when the transmission is in reverse. This vehicle is also equipped with a traction control system that helps avoid drive wheel spin and loss of traction. The system is operated independently from the electronic stability control. If the vehicle begins to slide, the traction control system applies the brakes to individual wheels and, when needed, reduces engine power at the same time. If the wheels spin when accelerating on slippery or loose surfaces, the system reduces engine power in order to increase traction. If you're stuck in mud or snow, you can shut off the traction control for full engine power, but not the electronic stability control. In addition to ESC and traction control, this vehicle is equipped with an anti-lock brake system, or ABS. The ABS helps you maintain steering control during emergency stops by keeping the brakes from locking. When the system is operating, the brake pedal will pulse and may travel further. Do not release brake pressure, but maintain firm, steady braking pressure while steering around the hazard. Never pump or modulate the brake pedal during ABS operation. The ABS light momentarily illuminates when the ignition is turned on. If the light does not illuminate during startup, or remains on or flashes, the ABS may be disabled. Do not drive the vehicle. Instead, remove it from service for repair. Drivers need to adapt their speed and behavior to prevailing road conditions. Basic fundamentals of proper performance driving techniques have not changed. However, if drivers find themselves in a turn and the vehicle begins to slide, the ESC will use the brakes and reduce throttle inputs to slow the vehicle. If the ESC warning light flashes or the driver feels the ESC system working, ease off, use less throttle, and steer in the desired direction of travel. While in a curve with the ESC activated, the driver can use the brakes if needed to reduce vehicle speed. Using the brakes while in a turn in a vehicle without stability control can result in loss of control. In the unlikely event that the ESC has failed and becomes disabled, a solid stability control light will illuminate on the dash. Immediately return to your office and remove the vehicle from service. An authorized dealer must service the vehicle immediately. Without ESC, you'll have to respond to understeer and oversteer appropriately. No system, no matter how sophisticated, can defy the laws of physics or overcome careless driving actions. Performance is limited by available traction, which snow, ice, water, and other conditions can affect. Should you start to slide while driving on snow or icy roads, maintain steering input in the direction you want to go. Use appropriate throttle as needed, while the ESC works to maintain control and forward momentum. Activation of the stability control system is an indication that at least some of the tires have exceeded their ability to grip the road. Slow down. Excessive entry speeds can limit the amount of traction available with the tires and roadway, exceeding the threshold limits of ESC. Do not let ESC allow you to become overconfident in the vehicle's handling and/or your own driving skills. The ESC system is not a performance enhancement nor a replacement for safe driving practices, but rather a safety technology to assist the driver in recovering from dangerous situations. For example, in a severe hydroplaning scenario, the wheels that ESC would use to correct a skid may not even initially be in contact with the road, reducing its effectiveness. When traveling at high rates of speed, drivers should give themselves enough time to slow down, using straight line brake applications for sufficient rates of closure while entering turns or off-ramps. Additionally, two hands should always be used and positioned at 10 and 2, 9 and 3, or 8 and 4 to maintain control with smooth steering input. As with any vehicle being operated in police work, drivers must stay focused and take care not to get in over their heads with excessive entry speeds, aggressive throttle applications, or abrupt steering inputs.
And again, your vehicles are made to keep you safe. They're made to keep you in that safety zone inside that vehicle. Seat belts, airbags, the crumple zones on your vehicles, the computer systems in those vehicles are going to help you in steering and in cornering and backing in some situations. So your vehicle is a lot safer than some of these vehicles in the past days. Do you have any questions? Thank you very much.